Hi, everybody. Welcome to Living in Control podcast. I'm Reza Abraham, the author of In Control, a systematic approach on taking complete control of your life and career, and also a co-founder of In Control Group, an organization with a mission to help people become in control of every aspect of their life. We imagine a world in where most people are in control of their life and career, a conscious life accompanied by conversion, contentment, and consistency. So in today's podcast, we are going to talk about, again, one of the most important pillars in living an in control life called condition, which is your ability to retain a healthy state of body, mind, emotion, and soul. So today we have a super special guest, one of the loveliest individuals I have ever met in my entire life. He is the host of Rejuvenaging podcast, focus on developing the skills and behaviors that lead to enhanced physical, mental health throughout the lifespan. He's also the author of the same topic, Rejuvenaging. It's an award-winning and a top-seller books, and he's at the age of 84, guys, 84. He works full-time and stays fit physically, emotionally, and intellectually, and socially. So let's welcome our lovely guest for today, a positive health psychologist and author, Dr. Ron Kaiser. Sir, thank you for being with us.
Well, it's a real pleasure, Reza. Thank you for having me.
It's really an awesome things, and we got to know each other like a couple of months ago, and it was really very exciting to talk to you about this whole concept of like rejuvenating as well. So would you like to start the conversation by explaining to us like what this word is for some of our audience who has never heard of the word before? What is rejuvenating?
Okay, I suspect that much of your audience has never heard of it before because it's actually a term that I coined, but I've had trademarked and registered in the United States. And rejuvenating is the art and science of growing older with enthusiasm. In other words, my goal is to help people to not decline, not see old age as a time of decline, but rather to, in your terms, to take control of their lives so that there are certain specific things that they can do to make sure that they grow older with enthusiasm, and equally important, with good health, sound minds, and being socially connected.
I see. So what is the opposite of living rejuvenating? Like what is the why do you emphasize a lot on the word of like enthusiasm there?
Well, because I think that the opposite and the alternative is there are two words that come to mind. One is passivity, and the other is decline. I think that if you're not rejuvenating, if you're not moving forward, if you don't have goals, then in essence, you're allowing the course of events to control you. And, as you'll see when you get to be my age, you do have to work around the fact that you can't run as fast as you used to, that there are some things that you forget and so on. But there are a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you're as fit as possible. So that's why, again, I think you're either rejuvenating or you're declining.
Rejuvenating or declining. So that is how you put these two, the opposite. So what are the common, I know in the books you talk about like a set of principles that they are very, very important in order to build that rejuvenation. I don't know whether it's how do you make it as a noun, right? Is it so what are the key principles, if you want to share with us, like that it makes someone to not decline?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of science that demonstrates the fact that if you are moving forward in really three main areas, the health and fitness area, the intellectual functioning area, and the social connectedness area, that you're going to continue to make progress as long as you have goals and are moving forward. Now, I broke that down into 7 keys to rejuvenating.
All right.
And the 7 keys, and interrupt me at any point if something's not clear, but the first key is the mindset. Now, mindset is maybe an overused word at this point, but the fact is that you have to really start out with the belief that you can continue to grow throughout the lifespan, that you do have control over your life, what you put into your body, how you use your body, how you use your mind, how active you are, and so on. So the mindset is really the first step. Then the second, I don't know if it's second in importance, but it's probably the one that a lot of my peers worry the most about, and that's intellectual functioning, the fear to kind of lose your mind if you
Yeah.
don't, as you get older. And again, I think there are certainly some things that we know that you can do in terms of staying active, learning new things. And, now with the internet, it's easy to do.
Sure.
The third, which I thought was maybe the easiest, but my editor said no, too many people would have problems with it, and that's healthy eating. Because I
Oh
think,
yeah. Oh yeah. That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
yeah, because I think that's something that you have control over. That
Mm.
doesn't depend on somebody else uh, recognizing you, or somebody else, if you're trying to interact socially, that's somebody else may be busy or whatever. How you choose to lead a healthy eating lifestyle is something you have total control over. I know a lot of people struggle with it, but
Yeah.
I can cite myself as an example. During COVID-19, early on, just by being home more and being closer to the kitchen than I would be most of the day, I found I put on about maybe 4 pounds, depending when
Oh
uh,
wow.
when I measured myself. So I decided, hey, uh, that's an embarrassment. And I wasn't fat, but
Yeah.
it's
You
not
can just
being in
feel that,
control. Yeah,
you're basically
yeah,
gaining weight.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not being in control. So I,
Yeah.
set certain goals for myself. There's certain things I only eat like in an area that's designed for eating. I'm not going to sit in front of a TV and have something in front of me that I can grab. I'm not going to eat bigger lunches than I would if I were in the office, and so on. And now I weigh about 19 pounds less than I did
Hmm.
at that time,
Oh
when
wow. Very good.
people are still maintaining their COVID weight.
Very
So
good.
healthy eating, then so the three: mindset, the intellectual functioning, healthy eating. The fourth is what I call owning your body, which involves
Hmm.
exercise on a regular basis, but also includes things like meditation, sleep, just taking care of the physical parts of your body. Um, Number five is uh, kind of social connectedness, that we are social beings. There's science that demonstrate that a couple of things that are really important. One is the fact that we've kind of been able to thrive as a species by
Hmm.
interact and cooperate, things of this nature. And there are scientists who believe that social involvement is just as important, say, as is a need, just like food, water, so on. And
Sure.
there MRI studies showing that when you're lonely, the part of the brain that lights up with physical pain also lights up with that kind of emotional pain. So that's the fifth one. The sixth is that it's not just important to be socially connected, but doing good for other people
Oh
is
yeah.
really enhances your growth, makes you feel better, and again, makes you feel more in control, because you're doing something for somebody else who may not be able to do it if you couldn't, whether it's anything from mentoring to helping drive somebody who's infirm or whatever, take somebody to doctor visits and so on. And then the final one is to appreciate the good things that surround us. I
Hmm. Grateful.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, a friend of mine, Rick Hansen, who's a neuropsychologist in California, uh, coined the term "taking in the good," to actually
Hmm.
that if you don't just go out and say, hey, it's a nice day, but to actually really appreciate that, to not just, hey, that's nice that my grandchildren, you know, include me in their lives, but to really, recognize, hey, that not everybody gets this, and I really have to enjoy that. And when we think in terms of taking in the good, it doesn't have to be really dramatic kinds of stuff. If I'm going someplace and I get there on time, if I drive someplace, I get there on time and no cars hit me, I didn't get into any accidents, hey, that's a pretty good thing. So those are kind of the general principles of rejuvenating.
You know what I love about the whole concept of rejuvenating. I mean, it's something that I personally, before I met you for the first time, I have not heard about the book. Yeah, but when I went through it and I look at the principles that you mentioned, it is very, very close to some of the principles that I was trying to build in control as well. And I love the fact that you're in all the 7 principles, something that you are constantly reminding people is that, hey, all these 7 things, you are in full control of doing it. Yeah. Means that, the only one that, just now when you were going through it and I was just like in my mind, I was like ticking. I think mindset is something that, there is a lot of things that it's sometimes we are, about this concept of Zorro circle, right? The circle of concern and circle of influence. Yeah. So there are certain things that we are not in control of it. Yeah. Which kind of influence our mindset. It's a lot like, connected to our reticular activating system. It's based on like what you receive on a day-to-day basis. And some of them basically is like, which you simply can't do anything about it. Yeah. So all we need to do, we just need to take responsibility for the things that we can control. And we don't use the rest as an apology for the things that I can't control. So I want to ask you now this question. So based on the 7 principles that you just now mentioned, which one of them do you think we are most vulnerable to get out of control?
Well, I guess I can answer a couple of them. I think in the older age ranges, I think that not staying socially connected is a potential problem because it's just easy to, particularly if somebody retires, it's easy to sit around, watch TV,
do nothing.
And there really is science to indicate loneliness, for example, is there with obesity, smoking, and a sedentary lifestyle in terms of being a killer. So I think that's a really important kind of thing. The other, I would go to the other end of the age range of the adult age range. I think it's very easy to kind of slack off on keeping the body healthy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have what they consider to be good reasons for it, that, hey, I am building my career, I'm raising my family, stuff. I don't have time to exercise. One of the few joys I get is to be able to eat and drink as much as I want or whatever. So those are the what I consider the real danger points. Of course, on an individual basis, anything.
Yeah. It's like I would say it's pretty much also goes back to our own upbringing and who we were when we were younger, when we were, for example, like, if you ask me, I would compare myself when I was in my 20s. Yeah. So maybe for you, you're looking at it like, if I was exercising, for example, all the time, even when I was at my 40, 50, 60, 70, right? Well, the chances for me to exercise even when I'm at my 80 is still there, right? But I like the points that just now you mentioned that. So you mentioned 2 of them that we could be the most vulnerable. One is the social life. The other one is taking care of the body. Do you think these 2 are well connected as well? Because when you are not socializing with people, when you are not going out, right? Well, you might also thinking like, why do I need to take care of my body? Right. So it's kind of like, I think there must be some correlation between these two. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think there's correlation in terms of the decline because, again, uh, as you mentioned, I think, and that's absolutely accurate, and it can become kind of a vicious cycle that, well, if I'm not involved with others, I don't take care of my body, which limits my ability to be, seen as a fit person by other people,
Yeah.
and so on. So I think that's absolutely true. But I think that also, just in terms of the correlation, um, there there are a lot of activities that can meet both objectives. In other words, I think going to a gym can enable you to be in contact with others who may have similar interests, getting involved with some kind of a team sport and I'm not talking about like a kids team sport, things like volleyball leagues, bowling, things of this nature. There are things that you can do that can meet more than one of the principles. And I think that, the more that they interact. Again, the science is pretty strong to indicate that if you're moving forward in the health and fitness area, in the intellectual functioning area, in the social area, you're going to do, it's not 100% guaranteed because genetics do count, as I'm sure you know, but you're going to do better than most people in general. And so I think combining the two is a real good idea.
Very good. Dr. Ron, I want to ask you, do you still set goal for yourself?
Oh, sure. When I teach courses and for older adults, one of the first things I start with is, what is your 10-year plan? And no matter what age you are, you should have a 10-year plan. We then break it down to, we should have, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and so on plan. But we want to be able to have goals that we're working toward. I developed this kind of offshoot of positive psychology that I call goal achieving psychology. And I think that people
goal achieving psychology. Okay, that's another new term.
Yeah, I call the initials are GAP, GAP. So I say it's kind of the gap. It bridges the gap between thinking and doing. That if you have goals, that bridges the gap between good ideas and actually implementing them. So yeah, I do think that it's very important. I think, again, my age is not a secret, and while I may have outlived what my predicted age would be when I was born, the fact is that there are people now who are predicting that the average lifespan will be around 100, that there will be people who will live beyond it. I don't know if you've heard, Reza, but there are a couple of geriatrician, I guess, professors of geriatrics in the United States who had made a bet that that one of them said that the average, that right now today, the first person who is going to live to be 150 is around, probably not walking around, but a baby. And somebody bet with him, said, not that that's an impossibility, but he doesn't think it's going to happen, within the next 150 years. But the lifespan will, with what we know medically and so on, that the lifespan will improve. So, I just want to make sure if by some fluke I'm the guy who's going to make it to 150. I better have a 10-year goal.
No, that's
a minimum.
That's very fascinating. That's very fascinating. I personally, when I was in my early 20s, I don't really believe in goal setting. I never actually set any goals by the age of like 20. So I got inspired for the first time. I was attending a seminar by Zig Ziglar. This is a long time ago. So this is like a 20 years ago story. So I was attending this seminar by Zig Ziglar, and he mentioned about this story of this guy by the name of Howard Hill. I bet you should know about Howard Hill, because he basically, like, he was the best archer back in 1950, and there was this story that Zig Ziglar always used to tell us. And then he said, like, he said that Howard Hill was the best archer, so he could hit a target from like a 50-meter away. And it was a big deal back in 1950, because back then, even the archery set, it wasn't as sophisticated as today. Today, maybe 50 meters is not a big deal. And then he said, like, okay, so let's bring Howard Hill to our class and then put him there. And then, so that's the target. Let's blindfold him, turn him around, so guys, do you think he can hit the target? So everybody obviously said, he can't hit the target. He said, why he can't? Because he can't see the target. He said, that's a great question. Just now you said Howard Hill can't hit the target because he can't see the target. So how about you guys who don't even have a target? And when he said that, it was like a slap in my face. I never actually believed in goal setting, frankly speaking. I thought like goal setting means a small setting. Why do you need to do that? Why do you need to write it down? And it's amazing, because when I'm talking to the people, one of the things that I wish I knew a bit earlier was goal setting. But what fascinates me also talking to you is that you are still setting some goals for yourself at the age of 84, and that is something that, especially when I'm talking to some of the elder crowd, for example, I have classes. I don't speak on at the age of like 70 or 80. Most of my participants, when I talk in trainings or seminars, the age range is like about 40, 50. And they often say, like, well, you know what? I should have attended this training maybe 20 years ago. Now I'm already in my retirement age. But you are making a huge point here that, hey, even at the age of 84, you're still setting 10 years goal for yourself. And that's amazing. That's really amazing. But okay, so some of them, these are the questions I always get. They will say, like, but what for? They say, what for? And that's like, sometimes I'm like, how to answer this? What is your answer to this one? What for?
Do you want me to answer for somebody your age or somebody my age?
Because your age, definitely okay. Your age.
All right. Well, let's look at, we talked right at the beginning about what is the opposite of rejuvenaging and
declining.
So if I'm going to spend the next 10 years declining, and what if I, live to be 100 or more? Whatever it is. And if I'm going to spend that time declining, being taken care of, living in a facility or something like that, that's just a long time to be doing that. I think our role models, for example, were, from years ago, when say somebody would retire at age 65 and maybe they might live another year or two or three. But the reality is that somebody who retires at 65 could live for several decades. And again, what is, if you're either going to be taken care of, you're going to just, if you're not being taken care of, what kind of, interesting life is it to not know what you're going to be doing the next day or the next week or stuff like that. You can make it work for a while, but at some point, even just in terms of, how you're going to stay healthy, unless part of your plan has something to do with eating healthy, with exercising and stuff like that. So again, the alternative is decline. And sure. And also, I think that there have been very few lessons that would make us want to repeat COVID. But I don't know how it is in your country, but certainly the large number of deaths due to COVID-19 in our country was due to people who had serious health conditions, many of whom were living in nursing homes, stuff
Yeah.
like that. So, I mean, in the real world, you're a lot better off having goals, being healthy, uh, increasing the odds that you're going to be functioning for however long you want to function. Uh,
Hmm.
there is,
What do you tell to those people? What do you tell to those people? I mean, I don't know. I personally thought about this too. Is like I was asking myself, I know if I can just live like up to 70, I'm already good. I never envisioned like, living a very, very long life. And, when was the first time I came to that idea? I read this book called Ikigai. I don't know whether you have heard about
yeah,
Ikigai before, the secret recipe of living a very long life, which they talk about like, centenarian, the people who live more than 100 years. Yeah. And but one questions that even when I was going through the book is like, and this is something that I, frankly speaking, I got these questions from some people as well. Like, why do you want to even live long?
Mhm.
What do you answer to such a person?
Well, first of all, you can't predict, you
Because you're
know.
not in control of your
Yeah,
age, right?
yeah. I mean, there's the control of things that you can't predict. But I just think I've spent a lot of time working with medical patients. That's really been kind of the primary part of my career, headaches and other pain patients. And the big concern with what happens with them is quality of life,
Yeah.
not having that quality of life. So the reality is that, again, I don't know, again, you can try and do all the right things, and I don't know whether I'll live another day or another decade or another several decades, but I would hope that I can have the best quality of life that I can have for as long as I live, because again, you don't tell a kid who's starting school, that one of the things you can kind of look forward to is declining. You don't tell
Mm.
somebody starting a job that ultimately we're going to decline. So I mean, I think it's not natural to even want to decline. Did you used to get, when he was alive, when Charles Schulz was alive, did you used to get the cartoon Peanuts in your?
Oh yes. Yeah, yeah. We also have it.
So,
Yeah.
so I don't know if you've seen it. There is a famous cartoon that I've actually quoted a few times, and I think that I think maybe Schroeder. I'll get my characters mixed up. I think Snoop
Go ahead. Go
is
ahead.
one of them, but one of them says, one day we're all going to die. Yeah, I think he's talking to Snoopy. He says, one of these days, Snoopy, we're all going to die. And Snoopy says, that's true, but every other day we won't. So if we every other day we're not going to prepare for death, but try and increase our quality of life. That's why it's important to set goals.
Yeah. So the one point is basically that just now you mentioned is about improving the quality of your life. That is very important. And I mean that's very subjective as well, because different people might define quality of life very differently. But I personally, yes, I wouldn't say like quality of life. It is something only about earning more money, or you are better in a financial situation, but it's also, in terms of like your convenience, in terms of your health, in terms of your well-being, socials. But I also want to add on one more point here based on some of the 7 principles that you mentioned. I think one of the best way to give the answer to someone who is thinking like, why do I need to live even longer, is one of the principles that you mentioned. If I'm not mistaken, it was your last principle. It's about helping other people. So this is again something that I learned it for the first time from Zig Ziglar. He said, you will get everything you want in your life when you help more people to get what they want, right? So
Mhm.
life at some point, it's not about you anymore. You know, it's about like what kind of impact you're making in other people's life, and that is very important. Like, how do you want to be remembered? You know, how do you want to be remembered? Like one of the things that I was having a discussion even with my wife the other day, I said, like, you know, if I die tomorrow, I'm actually good with it. You know, of course, it's not going to be easy for the family, but then the fact that, you know, for example, I published a book, it means that you left most of your thoughts behind, right? You know, so at least stuff that it was very important to me, I already put it down in all in one book, right? So I feel that that's very important. So it's like it's about what do we do for this world, you know? I mean, John F. Kennedy also used to have like these very famous things like, you know, don't ask what the country can do for you, ask what can you do for the country. Yeah. So it's like doing something for the people also is a very important thing. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think that one of my mentors, Marisa Murgatroyd, talks about the fact that you should have a selfish why and unselfish why. That I think there's another word, an altruistic why. That you know, so that you really there's nothing wrong with having a selfish reason for doing what you do, but it's certainly a higher level of satisfaction if in that process you're also doing things for other people. And really, again, like your book, I mean, uh, that that will set a tone for people, you know, no matter how long you live. Some of those principles of being in control are you know, going to be helpful to other people.
Correct. Yeah. So, okay. Another questions that I'm very curious to know, because many of our audience also, they are very they're young right now, and they want to know, for example, from someone who has lived for 80 years, and frankly speaking, you know, when I'm looking at you, you are still super sharp. You know, touch wood, you're super sharp. You're in a good shape. You have a sweet smile. So what would you say to someone who is at the age of like 20 or 30? They want to know, like, okay, so what are the things that it created a lot of like baggages for you, even by the age of 80, you still remember and you will say, like, you know, I wish I would have not done that before. You know, like to give an example, like one of the things is like regrets that people actually carry for years. You know, they would say, like, you know, I wish I have done this, you know, when I was in my 20s, because now it's already too late. So what would you say to people who are at the age of like 20 or 30 that they don't say that too late later on? What would be your advice to them?
Well, I start with the statement that you are exactly where you should be now. I'm exactly where I should be now. Because I made the best decisions that I could with what I knew at that time. In retrospect, some of them are dumb decisions. If I had made different decisions, I could have saved myself uh, lots of time in getting to where I wanted to get to. I could have had more money. I could have had, you know, certain experiences that I probably won't. I mean, we've traveled pretty well, but there are places we probably won't get to. There are some things just in the establishment of my ideas. If I'd you know, taken a few risks in getting them out there earlier, you know, that may have, I might be in an additional place. But, you know, the reality is, I think if we start out with the assumption, the recognition that we are exactly where we should be now, then you can look at the past experiences as things you can learn from, but not get stuck in the regrets, because the regrets
is not going to help.
They're not productive. They don't get you.
They're not productive. Yeah. And it takes a lot of like our emotional and mental energy, right? So, but I want to press you a little bit more on this one, because this is something that you want to take it away. Yeah, is that if everything else in your life remain as it is, like exactly where you're supposed to be, If there is one change you will make in your past, what would that be? You can
Yes.
take your time. You can take your time.
Yeah, that's
You don't need
a
to
great
rush.
question. It's a great question. It's a hard question. And I don't know if I can boil it down to one thing, but I think that I uh, probably wish that I'd have been more of a risk taker earlier in my life, that I did follow, a kind of career path that had me, as a salaried employee for many years. There were some things where I could have, just started being more aggressive in promoting myself.
Mm,
When I say promoting myself, promoting my ideas, promoting even just socially, just the notion that I think that uh, in groups now, I'm much more assertive than I was then. So I think that I think I am more of a risk taker than I was when I was younger. And
wow.
when I get together with, people I graduated from high school with, and so on, I see in some cases it's been the other way around, where some of the people who were, really um, really achieved a lot very early, um, got a little complacent about it. So I mean, I think it's hard to go against what you're experiencing at that particular time. And again, there are some things I would have done a little different career wise. There were some I would have made certain moves to go more into a private practice earlier. There, uh, again, I just think that there were some things that I did more out of comfort, and I think that's
Mhm.
I think I saw, for example, my father worked pretty hard and long hours and stuff like that. And I know when I first was looking for career and job situations, my goal was to, uh, you know, get off of work in the middle of the afternoon and be free. And I can't say I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
A lot of things, but I think knowing what I did now, um, there, there are a lot of people who worked uh, pretty hard at an earlier age who are, have learned how to take it easy. They, so that I don't know if I'm totally answering your question because I'm thinking
Yeah.
while saying it, but I just think that I probably would to sum it up, I probably would have been a little less conservative and more risk taking earlier on.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, that's I think that's a very important point. And this is something that it took me a very long time to make a decision to make my own moves too. And the whole when you're talking about like taking risk and all those stuff, and I think this is how I receive it, right? So you can correct me if I'm receiving it wrongly. But what I'm hearing is that learning to take a step forward to be in control of your life and career. That's how I receive it based on your side of the story. So meaning that taking some risk, basically you're just define it as like I wish I I should have taken my life in my own hand faster than this. So I
yeah,
didn't wait longer to make that decision to write the book, to go out and do my own branding. You don't mind if I ask you when was the age that you decided to go for all this the concept of rejuvenating and going out and talking about it? When was which age? What age was that?
well, I think first of all, well, it kind of evolved because again, I was
Sure. Yeah, definitely, definitely.
with the headache field and so on. Um, And then when I actually got into the older age ranges, there were some things that kind of combined to make me think that, hey, this is the way that people are perceiving older folks, and I got to go differently. Because I would, like, for example, I would go for an annual physical or some kind of test, medical test that you get once in a while, and the nurse
Mm.
ask, what medications do you take? And not are you taking any medications, but what medications do you take? And then people ask me, well, when did you retire? Um, and there were just some things about the way older people were perceived. And then I saw some of my peers are really fitting that stereotype that
Mm.
are uh, we're coming up with getting preventable diseases because of the way they live their lifestyle. And
Mm.
remember, uh, my wife and I were out with another couple one weekend, and I believe it was a Saturday night, and she had asked, my wife had asked the guy that we were with, "What'd you do today?" He said, "Nothing. I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow." And and I would get, people laughed, and I would get angry about it. And I
You just
remember,
wasted the day.
yeah, and so I mean, I think both the way that other people were treating us and the way that a lot of peers were behaving. So it really, getting into the active aging range didn't really begin until I was there. I do remember going to a workshop when I was 72, because I remember there were two of us who were 72 at that time, and both of us were quite active. Uh, but I remember that was the time that I said, "Hey, I got to get some things out into the world," and I
Mm.
did an ebook called "What Can Go Right," which is Thinking Person's Guide to Making Good Things Happen. And so once I got into the writing bug, then I got a little more into instructing, and then ultimately doing Rejuvenaging.
Wow. So it means that you put out all these things was at the age of 70. And how you came to this realization was when you go around and you see people who are like, in a similar age as you, but they have declined like way faster than you, right? So that was
Yeah.
the turning point for you. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. That's great, Dr. Ron. It's really an honor to have you. I simply can talk to you for the whole day, So it's just so nice to talk to you. It's like a lot to get out there, and so yeah. So for all our audience, where they can find you and your works.
Okay, well, my website is called the Mental Health Gym, and I'm also on social media. I think it's the Mental Health Gym on both Facebook and Instagram, and I think it's Health Gym on Twitter. It's my name, Ron Kaiser, PhD, on LinkedIn. The book is available on Amazon, and I guess in Barnes and Noble, and I guess those are the easiest ways. I am, really interested in hearing from other people. I do like to encourage people along, and if people have questions, don't hesitate to write me at the Mental Health Gym. Also, my podcast comes out once a week. It's called Rejuvenaging with Dr. Ron Kaiser. We always have really really good guests, including you, Reza. So
Yes.
and we're always we it comes out, a new edition comes out every Tuesday, and wherever people listen to podcasts, they can find us.
Sure. So thank you very much again for being with us. Guys, we hope this conversation has inspired you to know and learn more with us. So please tune in to our next podcast, and we love to have you around. And as usual, I just give you all a reminder. I think Dr. Ron Kaiser also gave us a very good reminder of like to be in control of your life and career, and how you can do that when you love what you do, when you love who you do it with, when you love who you do it for, and when you love how you do it. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Dr. Ron Kaiser, to being with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.